Please be joined this time by Coach Jackson Smith, Special Teams Coordinator at North Forsyth. Coach, thanks for joining me.
Coach, appreciate you having me on.
Man, excited for this. I always like to say everybody was talking about offense, defense. We got to get them special teams going, man. So everybody talks about it being important, but then when I ask them to talk, they always want to talk about offense, defense, right? So I appreciate the special teams talk, my man. Hey, let me get out of the way. Take it away.
Yeah, man. So, like you said, special teams always so important. Everybody always brings it up, and so anytime I go to clinics or any of this online stuff, I'm always looking, for special team stuff. So that was kind of my first thing that I wanted to get to when I had the opportunity. And so what I'm kind of planning on is talking about our kickoff team specifically. That's something that is my fifth year or ninth year total at North, fifth year being our special teams coordinator. And so, our kickoff team to me is our most important. It's a lot of ways the one that can change the game the most, good or bad. In a lot. So, just kind of real quick, 2 minutes on just kind of our philosophy. And so, I kind of started this acronym last year of SWARM. Speed was what I kind of used to just use. We used to break the huddle for kickoffs and all that stuff with the word speed. And so, I wanted to expand on that and kind of get this is what our kind of tenets of what all our special teams units needs to be. And so you can see their willingness, aggression, resiliency. And then I talk about them being maniacs, because it takes a special player, special kid to run down the field on kickoff, to field a punt, to lay out and block a punt, lay out and block a field goal. You got to be, a little bit crazy in a good way. And so I kind of, our maniac of the week is what we do for our player of the week. And so, but to our kickoff team specifically, I treat it just like really like any like an offense. How do you install it in phases, really? And so we start all the way in the spring. Coach Kraft he puts an emphasis on our special teams at spring practice. And so I know at some places, we're fortunate to have the coaching staff to be able to do special teams that early, and at some places that it's tougher in the spring to get started with that. But he does a great job of emphasizing, our special teams is just as important as any of our other units. And so we start in the spring, kind of with our small group, kind of drill work type situations. And that's kind of what I'm going to spend most of the time talking about today. It's kind of our drills and the coaching points with that. We get to the summer, we have kind of bigger group drill work. I'll show you a 3-on-3 drill here in a minute that we do, and then our situations. And then by the time we get to fall camp, we do our full field 11-on-11. And so this is kind of our summer where we start. And so I laid this out. It's almost like an install plan, like an offense. Now, when you're going to run, you talk in the spring, you're going to install inside zone one day, whatever that may be. And so with our kickoff team here, I've broken this down by each unit, or each day rather, and what we're doing with each unit, what we're doing in our specialty period with our snappers, holders, kickers. And like here, you can see, like I'm going to talk about this drill in a minute, our one-on-one compete drill. We'll line up and we try to go through, like a lot of people probably do, all sorts of situations that you could run into, kicking off after a safety, backed up punt, punting going in, the always popular, fair catch and kicking it after that. It always confuses the kids. And so we always try to, I try to lay that out in the beginning of the summer so we kind of get to those situations. And so you can see here another kickoff day, 3-on-3 compete. That's another drill I'm going to talk about here, in just a moment. And so it's a good way to help keep me organized. Let me see what drills I've done. I can look back last summer and see what drills did we do when. And I think it's a really helpful thing. And so, kind of getting to the main point here is our kickoff team. And so we start off, we have our 3 zones. This is common. A lot of folks do this stuff. We got a lot of what we do, like any good coach, kind of take it from some others. A couple years ago, I was fortunate that we met with Florida State, their staff. It was Coach Barfield. I believe he's at Tulsa now, last I looked. But he met with us and we got to talk with him for like 2 hours, 2.5 hours about everything special teams. He went through each kicking unit, all that kind of stuff. And so a lot of what you'll see here is kind of what we got from them is what you'll see here. That's kind of my basis for a lot of our coaching points. And so this is from them that I kind of made up to show our kids. We have our 3 zones and we have a drill kind of for each one of these is why I break it down that way. So our takeoff is right where the ball is kicked from, starting with our heels on the 35-yard line in high school, speed zone, and our combat zone. And so kind of looking at our takeoff, this is what it sounds like. We want to get up to full speed really as quickly as possible, right? We want to be 100 miles an hour when we hit the 40-yard line. And so the coaching point you'll hear me and other coaches saying is we want to draw a laser down the 36-yard line, right? Our eyes should be downfield. We should be full speed ahead and trying to read to read that coverage in front of us. We want to make sure that we see what's going on, and not the coverage, excuse me, but the return scheme. And so I don't have a clip of our drill we do for it, but this is from a game this year against South. And so I was going to kind of highlight, what I'm looking for here and what we're doing. And so we're going to be heel on 35, close as we can get. And so I want to talk about drawing that line down to 36. Like I want to see right when that kicker breaks the 36-yard line, I don't want to be looking at him any longer. Right? I want to be down. I want to be starting to turn my head. So like right here, like these guys, you can see their heads starting to turn and get downfield, right? And then we're squeezing every inch out of the line. So like these two kids is what I want to see here. I want to see like this player here. His eyes are down the field. He's in a full sprinter stance. Right? He's not looking at the kicker. If you watch football and coach football, you obviously see when guys like do the kind of tiptoe at the line, trying to time it up. Like I want to make sure he's 100 miles an hour, full speed down the field. And so this kid, he's our safety in our coverage scheme. But other than that, pretty good. The guy farthest from the ball is maybe just a yard off, but I think that's a pretty good rep, in my opinion, there taking the line. And so in the summertime, we work just this drill. We get our kickers just like this, and we line up kids, usually not all 11 at a time, but probably like 3 on each side of the kicker, and we just work taking the line, full sprint from the 40 really to the 50. It's in shorts and T-shirts and helmets in the summertime. And so kind of our base one there. It helps the kickers too, I think, because like for the last 2 years, we've had a soccer player at kicker, a first year player. And so it helps them kind of get used to like having the guys around them, timing it up, doing his ready call. And so all that stuff's got to be practiced, obviously, especially a kid who doesn't know a whole lot about football coming in as a new player. And so, but yeah, so we talk about squeezing the air out of it. I think it was, again, to rep that Florida State little clinic we had with them. He talked about they kind of calculated that like for every yard behind the line of scrimmage or behind the 40 you are when the ball's kicked, translates to like 4 yards down the field of being off the ball. And so it's a big difference if you're giving up 4 or 5 yards of space in that coverage. And so I really like how these guys are down the field, they're sprinting, they're reading return scheme right now, they're seeing where the ball's going. And we should have, 10 guys really right on the line with our safety being the only guy who's off. And so that's kind of our first phase of it, right? It's pretty simple work in the summer. I mean, we can all do that in the summertime, right? You're just running. There's no contact really necessary with that stuff. And so that'd be kind of the first wave of it. And our second thing here is our speed zone. So this would be that next section down the field. And so we talk about avoiding contact as much as possible, right? With the frontline players, that is. It's kind of our base rule is we don't ever want to let a frontline return guy block us. And so our base rule is to coach avoid butt side like a lot of people do. There's always those kids that can win with speed on the front side block, and I'll show that here in his drill clips in just a minute. But we want to work to stack the guy, and it's all about speed. We don't want to sacrifice any speed. We don't want to engage a blocker. We want to avoid that contact really at all costs, except for if it really gets us way out of our lane coverage. I'll show you here. And so this is kind of how the drill sets up, and I'll show a clip of it here in just a moment after this. But this is good for just knowing the exact yard markers here. And so this is on the goal line coming out. All right, this is the goal line down here, 5-yard line up to the 27 is what we use. And cone, you put cones out because otherwise kids are going to line up wrong. So cone at the 1 or the goal line rather, a cone at the 4, and then this is like a 5-by-5 yard box right here from the 15 to the 20, and then this is just 2 cones right on the hash mark. And so putting it on the hash is easiest. Just helps your landmarks, helps stay in a straight line. All these letter C's is where if you have the coaching staff to do it. You can put coaches there if you really don't have a ton of folks. Like I usually stand here in the middle, and then I like to have one coach here, just keeping kids in line, one coach here, and then one at the end or 2 if possible, to have plenty of guys there. And so you can see here your coverage man, all about speed, full speed decisions, blocking. It's a good drill, works kickoff return side of it too. You want to transition from, he's in a stance facing here, in a power stance we call it. He's dropping into the box here, and he's trying to get in position to keep this guy here. And so the coverage guy is trying to avoid and stay within these cones. And so if you look at this clip here, move this deal out of the way, it's not blocking. So like right here, we're doing, this is a little bit different. This is an angle of it. So this was like just the second day we had done it. And so here's my cone. You're at the 4. For that diagram I showed you, it would just be straight on right here. We're a little offset here, working an angle drop. And so like if you look on the right side here, kickoff cover guy kickoff return guy. So he's trying to get into that box. You can see the cones are light colored, but they're 4 cones right here. And so he's trying to win right here, getting this guy's blind spot, get around him, and he wins the drill by getting between these 2 cones on the 27-yard line. That's like simulating getting back into his coverage lane. And so we have, it's like 3 push-ups. It's a competition drill, trying to find any way to compete. This looks like it's probably early fall. Maybe we were doing this, but you can do this summertime with no pads on too. As you can see, there's pretty minimal contact with it, and so it's a really good drill. Really for all that stuff. And so kind of looking at a couple coaching points with it here. All right, these guys dropping the kickoff return guy. He wants to be turned full speed like this running. When he gets into that box right here is when he can turn his hips and try to engage that coverage guy. And so the coverage guy on this rep on the right does a good job. He gets kind of right on his hip, right, squeezes the air out, and he makes that guy miss, going butt side on him. That's a winning rep on the right with the black jerseys there. It's a winning rep for the coverage guy, 82 right there. On this side over here, the kick return guy, this is what we don't. We want to try not to engage. Right? He didn't win with speed here. Right? He gets kind of run off of it. Maybe he wins at the end of it, but I think that's just an okay rep there. I don't really like him, going front side there. You really got the return guys got to drop some more speed as well. And so, look at next rep here. So on right side here, that's a win, for the kick return guy. Right, he does a good job getting in here, flips his hips. He's engaging. Right, it's his job to get that guy blocked, and he does not get back and stack that returner. This is a win for really both of those kickoff return blockers. On that stuff. And so it's full speed. We do this for 5 to 7 minutes. It's all skilled guys. Right, it's everybody. This is usually this is not as much an in-season drill as it is a spring, summer, fall camp. And so we get everybody involved. I tell the kids, anybody not wearing knee braces, our offensive linemen are all knee braces. So anybody not wearing knee braces, you're involved, and they all get in there. And so it goes quick. You get a lot of reps at it. We tried to do it sometimes for a full 10 minutes, and we found out we were just wearing kids out. So you get a lot of reps in about 7 minutes is what we figured out with it. And so that's the speed zone version of it. So there's going to be a combat zone version of it here in just a moment that I'll show you on this next clip. And so with that speed, he's just trying to win. There's no returner. This coach is just down here judging who wins. They're supposed to get 3 push-ups at the end of it. And so it's all about who can get down there, who can get set up. Like this kid here, a lot of hesitation there on number 35 here on the left. That was what I would coach him on. It's like you're hesitating too much. You got to go. You got to pick a decision and go. On the right side, 94. Right, he's just running a kind of midline in this guy. The return guy drops, gets set up. All right, that's a stalemate right there. That's not a very good rep by that guy on that side. So all about speed, right? Taking off, getting down the field, getting in that 5-yard box, stacking them and going. And so that would be kind of like this would be like let's say we're going to work kickoff twice that week. This would be like a Monday. This would be a Monday drill. Then we move on to our combat zone. So our combat zone is further down the field. It's like 30-yard line and in, 30 to goal line. And so we got to be a lot more under control. Right? We want to come to balance, engage the blocker, excuse me. It's like I use the term like 2-gapping. Like if you're a defensive player, right, you can't just run through everybody's face. You're playing defensive line, you're fitting the alley as a safety. You got to engage a blocker at some point, and create some separation, get off of them, make a tackle. And so that's the same terminology we use on this, is that we got to get down the field, and now we can't run around to avoid blocks. If we avoid blocks, we're going to get ourselves creased. And I'll show you a clip here at the end of it when that happened in the game, that does not go our way. And so it's all control. Right? It's transitioning from speed and aggression back to control. And so the drill setup's pretty similar. The box is still 15 to 20. Now this is on the 30. We have a returner in the combat zone 1. And so these guys are back there as returner. The cones are on the 3 and the 8. And it's just really that, it's just the spacing of it that matters. You'll start to, if you don't put it on those right yard lines, you end up where it's kind of advantageous to one side or the other. So they got to have good spacing right there on that. But other than that, again, the setup rather is largely the same. And so look at this drill. This is from the other angle. This is coming out. So the last time we filmed was from the back side of it. And so here's your cones on the 15 to 20. Here's your returner. I like to have a coach back here for this one if we can. Otherwise, the returners leave too early. And so now you can see right here on the right, this is a returner, kickoff guy. And so the setup of it's pretty similar, right? We're going to give a whistle to go. This kid's dropping into the box, same as ever, but now my cover guy has got to engage him. This is simulating now. We're on the 25-yard line on a kick, and the returner's coming. Right, we can't just run around them. So this on the right here is a good rep. He takes this block on, engages it, tries to get a little separation, gets the blocker off of him there, right, and then we're making the tackle just like that. And so that's, I'd like to see both of them play a little bit more physical. But the idea here is that you're a little more under control, right? And in the last clip, we're winning with speed. We're running by this guy, and we're getting here. And so this returner, his rule, and you don't have to have, you can see they don't have a football here. They don't have, it can be anybody. Just I usually tell one of these two guys to come be a returner. And so for the interest of the drill, there's no reason to have your exact returners back there. But again, it's a drill that works both sides of it, right? We're coaching the kickoff return guy. I coaching the kickoff guy. Like the kickoff return player here, right? It's not a very good drop. You see he turns and drops his left shoulder, and then he spins all the way around. So that it kind of loses sight of where he is, in my opinion. Like it's losing momentum, unnecessary movement. So we want to drop and kind of get set up the same way. So you watch him, here he goes, and he does a full spin. I mean, it's not real good there. So the kickoff guy ends up winning that rep as a result of it. And so, this is a pretty high speed one. You can actually do this. We do this in the summer sometimes without pads on. You do got to just be a little bit careful that kids aren't going to be foolish. Like if you have a team that, every team's different. Some of them may not be able to handle that. Some of them can. Like so this is definitely a fall camp, spring practice drill, can be a summer deal too, without pads on, at least around here. And so you look on the left side here, this is a rep where not as good. But this kid's a little bit too aggressive. And it's hard to get kids to tone down and that, man, you got to slow down or relax. But he tries to kind of run through this guy's face, and he ends up a little bit out of control. He still makes the tackle, but I'll show you in a minute here in the game clips where that kind of style long term is going to hurt you. You might win one here or there. But I like to see him be a little bit more under control and not just trying to run through this guy. All right, you get a little bit better return. This kid's like a sophomore. You get a little bit better returner here. He's going to make him miss this way. It's not going to be as good. And so got to be, the balance of speed, physicality to being under control. Right, it's a big deal. If you look on the right here, another good rep by the coverage guy. Right, engages the blocker. All right, the coverage guy's slow in his drop. He can get more depth. Right, he can get all the way into this box before he turns around. And he's starting to backpedal. Right, that's a good rep here by the kickoff guy. The return man just kind of dances around. So I call that a win for the kicker as well, or the return guy as well. Look at the left. This is one here, the black jerseys. Here's one where this kid just picks a side, right? He runs around, easy return for the return man. And so, this cover, compare that to the kid from the last rep. He's not quite as big as strong. And so when he tries to run right through this guy and pick a side, right, this guy blocks him, right? And he's not able to just throw him off of him. So, bam, right there, he's done. He's picked a side. Right, this is like on the 20-yard line coming out for a full field kick return, and he's picked a side right there. We're in trouble, right? That's a big return, right back up the middle on us. And so it's all about being under control, right? Being under control, knowing your landmarks, and really just coaching every aspect of this stuff. I know when I first started kickoff, I didn't really think much of it. You send 10 guys down the field, doesn't really matter. But now there's so many aspects of it. You got to coach every part of it: the takeoff, the speed, the engage, the tackle, all that stuff really has got to be coached up. And so from there, now we go to a 3-on-3 versions. These are our 3 drills. Like I'm a believer in, you don't want to have 15 different drills like a lot of people. And so this would be our 3rd drill. We actually start spring practice with this drill sometimes because it's a really good physical drill. That happens some years. We've had the advantage of being able to kind of install some of this stuff in shorts and t-shirts and other kind of things, and group work and 4-on-1s and things. And so the kids kind of get the idea, and then they're able to go and do this deal here. And so for this one here, this is like the end zone back here, 30-yard line going in. Right. And so I put pylons out or cones, either one. On the 20, I got cones right here on the 27 and on the 32. So all of them are starting in speed position. And what that means here is, let me get one where you can see it. So right here, I'll move myself out of the way, I want everybody facing down. Like these kids are already like simulating being like in their drop. I don't want them facing each other. So he's trying to get here, speed as much as he can, getting into his drop. And so the cones are there on the 20 set or the 20, because that's telling these guys to drop the 20. That we don't want them dropping any further than that. So as they're playing here, right, we got 3 guys in a row. And so we're dropping at the 20. And so this is simulating exactly the area of the field this would happen in a real game, right? In a real game, the ball's caught here on the 2. right? A lot of the times we get down the field, maybe get gauge more with 25, but still we're in these, it's in this little compact area. We're not killing the kids running down the field. And so if you look at kind of each one of these blocks now they're working as a unit. So right, if you watch like this kid here up at the top, right, he's going to just pick a side and go inside. He gives up his leverage. Number 0 right there does a pretty good job, though, right? He comes down the field. He kind of comes to balance, right? Gets his feet under him. He's able to go over there. He's able to make the tackle. And so you just kind of compare those two kids right next to each other. You got a kid who's 100 miles an hour, which is good, but there's a time to get it under control, too. And so he picks a side. He gives up our leverage right away. His buddy to his left, he was able to bail him out as a result of it. And so it's just kind of a progression of drills, like anything else. If you're working with any sort of position group, you're going to have a drill work progression. That's the same thing here. You go from 1-on-1 with a speed, 1-on-1 with a combat, and then 3-on-3 here, and then you're able to go to a full 11-on-11 kickoff coverage drill. And so I got one more clip in here. Yeah, I got one more clip of this. The same thing here, starting in speed, right? They're all facing this way. All right, whistle's blown. Returners are going when these guys cross the 20. So you'll see here they cross and flip. My receivers coach is back here tossing the ball up to the returner. All right, and then we got 3 guys here covering. So if you watch up top, this kid's going to do the same thing as Buddy did in front of him. He's going to dip inside right here, right, and be out of control. He's a freshman at this point in time, and so he's trying to, he's balls to the wall, getting after it, which got to be a little bit more under control than that, right? He tries to run through him. He's inside, and we're creased right at the sideline there because we lose contain. And so the guy in the middle here is doing a little bit better job. He still kind of picks a side as well. All right, but we just got to be under control. They got to understand where they are on the field. When's the time for speed? When's the time for coming under you, getting your feet under you, coming to balance, ready to make a tackle with that. And so really that's a really good high energy competitive drill. We do the same thing there. If this guy kind of breaks loose and scores, will be some kind of punishment. It's really just like 3 push-ups. We don't really want to slow the drill down too much and make sure that we are keeping things moving. And so it's like I said, we start this fall camp. Sometimes we'll start this with spring practice. It's a high energy drill to kind of get kids going, right off the bat. So there's 2 clips here from games, just kind of showing this stuff in action. And so this is game 10. So this is, the first one I'm going to show you is game 10. The first one is game 1, and kind of show you what it's supposed to look like, and then what it looked like when we first started. And so here, a good stance, right? I got all these guys facing same way. I like all these guys to have their heel on the line. I allow him to turn a little bit because I've found like he has a hard time because he's so close to the kicker, timing up the kicker when he comes behind him. If his eyes are downfield like these guys, I think it's a hard thing for him to see him. And so I have him turn a little bit. But if you watch here, again, 36-yard line's the landmark. So when the kicker breaks the 36, we should be moving. If you watch, one of the kids up top is early, right? You see him, he's moving. Kicker's hardly at the 35, 34 and a half. Right. And as a result, we get, we're over the line. We got called for offsides, not on this play, but during this game later on because we didn't address this. And so he's early. And so that leads to him, taking a line early. And so all these other kids moved at that right point in time. They squeeze it out. So that's our takeoff zone here. If you watch a couple guys here in the middle, right. So here he's number 22. You can't quite see from this angle. Then 99 here. He was right next to the kicker. 2 of them. 22 is going to avoid here with some speed, right? He's going to come here behind. He goes butt side on this player right through there, right? And now he's ready to come to balance and make the tackle. You can see he's getting his feet up under him, right? He's getting ready to go. Same thing here. If you watch 99, right? He's full speed right down the field. He's looking, watching the return scheme right here. Now it's time to fall in and make a tackle, right? He takes this block on. He falls in there, right? He's right involved in the tackle. And so that's the way we want to look. Speed, transition to a little power stance, come get your feet underneath of you, be ready to take it on that combat zone right there. If you look at it from this end zone view, and I'll move on to the last clip here in just a second, does a really good job of getting down the field, right? And you'll see we have 4 white jerseys kind of surrounding things. You can see 22 right here, just barely on the screen. He's going to go butt side on that player. Stack, that's our speed drill, right? And now we're in our combat drill. He didn't have anybody to take on, but that's a pretty good picture right there. You got 4 white jerseys, leveraging the football, get that guy tackled. Last thing here, this last clip, this is game 1. That's when we don't do it well. This one gets returned on us for a touchdown, which is, I'm sure you've had that feeling. It's not a good feeling. we're down the field here, right? We're kickers at the 36. We're moving. We're squeezing the air out of it, right? Contact with the ball right there. We're a little bit slow over here. Right, but you don't want to nitpick it too much. But if you watch right here, this is 99. It's the same kid that just made the tackle in the last clip. 20 is one of the kids that ran the drill earlier and was out of control. Right, you watch the two of them as they're coming down the field. Right, they're not breaking down. They're trying to run through people. Right, and right here now we're in trouble. Right, we got nobody there. They're running at the ball. They're trying to run through people's face. They're trying first game of the year. Everybody's jacked up, right? And they're not doing their job there, and so we end up in bad shape. Here, this kid's gonna take it all the way back on us, right? And so they got to know if you watch this end zone view, a couple things here. One, number 5 is gonna have a bad speed zone avoid, right? You see this? He tries to go front side on this player. Right. He knows we've talked all week. Hey, man, this guy's going to come block you. We've watched their return scheme, all that stuff there. And so he goes and you'll see his landmark is supposed to be the upright. If you watch his avoid angle here, he goes all the way across the middle of the field. Right. And we're in trouble. Big gap here. You pair that with 99 taking this block on right there, out of control. Right. And so it leads to a bad scenario, right? This kid, good player from Wheeler High School, ends up returning one on us. And so all those aspects, though, like I said, I feel like when I first started doing this, you just send 11 guys, get your best 11, fast 11, get down the field, cover that thing. But there's so much to it. You got to coach takeoff. You got to coach speed. You got to coach combat, all that stuff. This year we had a saying that you can assume nothing, right? You got to assume nothing about what kids know and make sure that hey man, you got to know you got to take this block on this way. You got to do this way. And make sure you get those coaching points out to them, because otherwise you start off game one with this feeling, which I promise you is not a great feeling right there, right? You're from middle of the field to hash, you got nobody. That goes back to just, not doing little things correctly, not taking the speed on right, not avoiding right, not taking on blocks right. So it's super important. All that stuff got to get down the field with some purpose. So this last thing here is contact info. If anybody who happens to watch, if you want to email me, call me, text me, anything, Twitter, send you any more stuff, talk about any of it. Like all of us, I think I like talking ball, I like talking about what we know. And so it's really good stuff. Special teams, like I said, and like you said, it's important. Special to me, obviously, big deal. It's a lot of fun. But that's it there. Some good drill work.
Yeah, appreciate it, Coach. That was great. I'll tell you this. It was told to me when I was the youngest of coaches that, you needed a good offensive line coach. You need to be good in the secondary. And it was told to me that, the special teams you really had to worry about was kickoff and punt, they get beat the fastest. And I think, although we can debate this, I think that's one of the few things that's still true, many, many, many years later, that still the offensive line in the secondary where you can get beat the fastest, and still kickoff and punts where you can get beat the fastest, so you had to start there. And so, I was great. If you can kick in the end zone, now they can put me on the kickoff team. But if you can't kick in the end zone, then you better do this.
I hear people say that. Why do you kick it short? Well, I'm not trying to.
Yeah, that's the best we can do. I
agree.
I coached a long time. We probably had 5 teams that could kick it in the end zone,
Yeah.
So you better be ready. No, it was good stuff, Coach. I really appreciate you. That was fantastic, and look forward to getting with you another time sometime.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on.
Take care.
Yeah, you have a good one.